All right, everyone, welcome back. I am starting this new live video because the last one I tried to start, apparently people were uncomfortable because they thought it was paid marketing and it was not. I think it was because it showed the cover of this journal because I hadn't opened it yet. This is just some watercolor paper. Nothing in this video is sponsored or promotional content whatsoever. So let's just get that out of the way to begin with. Last night, I went live and did a demonstration on creating mixed media art where we did this. It's not the greatest, but it's okay. And I mentioned in there that I thought it would be fun to maybe use some collage papers that I had. And I decided not to on that one, but so for today, I thought it would be fun to actually use collage papers for this. So these are some collage papers that I created a while ago. And I thought, you know what, let's just get on and paint together. Or you could just watch as we use these collage papers to create a mixed media collage. So I'm starting with just some watercolor paper. I have my watercolor palette here, as you can see. And I've got some water here and my paper towel. And I think for starters, I'm going to use just this big fluffy brush. And I think what I want to do is kind of create a color that's complementary to these without looking quite like these. So I have some color swatches here. Let me put this down. That I've made in the past. And I kind of am liking this. And let's take a look at some of these other colors. These might be a little too close, so we'll put that away. These might be a little too close as well, but I do kind of like this one. I don't know, lately I've really been feeling the blues. Blue tones have just been on my mind. I don't know if it's because it's spring and we're in Florida, so everything's beachy right now. So I'm just kind of taking a look at this. I don't know if I'll use this piece of paper, but I think kind of for the colors that are in all of this sort of color palette goes well with all of these. So let's decide. Let's do some maybe Paroline green. We've got some rare green earth with quinacridone gold and some buff titanium with paint the gray and Van Dyke brown. We'll just kind of play with these and see. These are just some color recipes I've put together in the past. And we'll just see how it goes. I do have this little thing that I got from, I think it was Five Below. And it's really cute because it's a turtle. And it came with a turtle shell that you can put water in. And it's got like this little side turtle, little like baby turtle that holds your brushes, which I actually don't know where it is. Oh, here it is, which is really cute. So I'm thinking I might use this and some of these that I've already mixed together because I think this one is one of these. So usually what I'll do is I'll grab a scrap piece of paper and then swatch some of these before I actually start painting. Now, I'm going to kind of just work and then check the comments and then do a couple more minutes of work and then check the comments. So feel free to leave a comment and I will do my best to watch them as we go. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to provide answers. So let's take a peek here. Let's see what this one looks like. There we go. All right, that one looks good. And then I think this one's just Paroline green. I don't think I mixed it with anything else. And maybe this one might come in handy as well. I actually do like all three of those colors. So why don't we just work with those and call it a day? Those were all custom mixed. So we're going to use these, and I'll move this off to the side. And I was going to use this big fluffy brush, but I think I'll just stick with this one because I am kind of limited in how much I have of this. So let's start here. And something I like to kind of start with is just a spray bottle. So I'll just kind of put a couple sprays on the paper and then soak my brush and really get a lot of water and pigment on there. And then I just kind of start putting random areas of water down. And I want to work a little quickly with this because this particular paper is not 100% cotton, so it dries pretty quick. And what I want is to kind of create a gradient with these. So you have to work quickly with this. So I'm going to grab some of this green and kind of just blob it around. Getting a lot of co-host requests from people I don't know. And it's kind of distracting. So if you could maybe not do that if you don't know who I am, that would be great. All right, so let's take some of the pink. And I think I actually will switch to that fluffy brush. All right, let's go back to this buff titanium sort of color. Add it here. I really want some lighter cream tones. So I am going to add some buff titanium that I have just off to the side on my palette. And I'm really going to just get the water soaked in there, adding some more of this pink and some more of this perylene green. And this is just going to be the base for our mixed media design. And if you see an area like this where the water's pooling, I'll lift that up so you can see. You can do a couple of things here. You can either leave it for what it is. You can try to lift it out with your brush. Or what I like to do to add texture is just grab some paper towel and just kind of dab, because it makes for interesting texture. I'll lift that up so you can see the kind of texture I'm talking about. There we go. All right, so this is looking really nice. It is a bit light for my liking. So I think what I'll do is grab my little color palette here and try to mix some more of this. And I don't totally remember what I used on this, but I'm gonna just take a guess. This color is Opera Pink by Daniel Smith. And then, let's see here. I think I used quinacridone gold to kind of make it into more of an orangey tone. And then some buff titanium. May have taken it a little too far orange, so I'm going to go back to the upper pink. And now, of course, it's too pink, so I'll add a little bit more quinacridone. Okay. Now I'm going to go back with the buff titanium. And I think that looks, whoops, sorry. I think that looks pretty good. And so now I'm just going to kind of layer in a little bit more of that. And this is actually going to start adding some more streaks as well as kind of these harsher edges because it is drying a bit. I do think it's a little more orange than I would like though. So let me find, I have this other palette over here that I just put random ones in that I have collected over the years. So this is from Artistic Isle. This is Chinese Vermilion. And I'm just going to add that because that's going to give me the pinker tone that I want. It is a little darker than I would like, but that's okay. We're just going to add some water. Okay. And now let's add some of this Chinese Vermilion here and see. So what do you guys think so far? Leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you like this color palette? All right, so now I'm going to go back in with some of that Perylene green. Just adding some depth here. And let's do some Cascade green. I like that because it's kind of a teal, but it separates into teal and green. And if you're just joining, we are working on our base for a mixed media collage. And we are working in watercolor for this base. All right, so now I'm just going to take this paper towel again and just kind of dab. I don't want to lift too much color out. There we go. All right, so I'm going to give this just a moment to dry. I'm going to speed it up a little bit with my heat gun. Hopefully you don't hear it too loudly. Hopefully you can hear me better than you can hear it. But so far, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Do you like the color palette? Do you like collage? Do you do collage work on your own? Do you create your own collage papers? I like to use coffee, like instant coffee for my collage papers. Looks like we have some people who have joined. Hi, Diana. Hi, Baby Whisperer 3. We are almost completely dry here. Just got a couple more spots. And then we can move on to the next part of creating the collage. Or the mixed media collage, I should say. One of the things I love about mixed media is that there really aren't any rules. You can kind of just decide to make whatever you want. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. Hi, Burl Brothers, thanks for joining. Hi, Shady Dirty, thanks for joining. All right, so here we go. This is just a little more right here in the middle. Okay, so now that we've done that, The next thing that I like to do is to sort of decide how I want to lay out these collage papers and which ones I want to use. So I've got a couple here. I really like this. If you had joined last night, you saw that I used a stencil in the work that I was doing last night. And that stencil is actually the same one that I used here. So this is, I believe, a mixture of some coffee grounds and some paint and gesso. This is some instant coffee gesso, and I can't remember. It's been a few years since I made these. Kind of the same situation here, instant coffee with gesso, and then more instant coffee, and then just kind of textured here. And then this is just some paint. These are just book pages from a book that I had laying around that I wasn't going to do anything with. So I like book pages. They tear nicely. All right, so I think what I want to start with is this. I like this aspect of the texture here. So usually what I do is I start by just kind of ripping, and I want all the edges to have a ripped edge. I don't want this straight edge here. So I'm not going to keep that around, but let's just kind of rip and see what happens. There we go. So there's one piece. Move this so you can see it a little bit better. And then let's take a peek over here and see, maybe we add one of these over here. So for this, I'm just going to kind of tear part of that. And so there's a couple different ways you can tear the paper, which I know sounds ridiculous, but when you're tearing paper, if you tear it, let me show you on a different piece. If you tear it towards you, depending on the piece that you want to use, if you're using this side, you'll have a clean edge with the top here. But if you tear it away from you, you'll see you have the torn edge look here. So you can see the difference. So you have, if you pull it towards you, if you pull it away from you. So it kind of just depends what you want for your collage. Or you can mix it both like this. You can see that I did this part here. And to be honest, I don't have a preference. I just kind of pull pieces and hope for the best. And whatever ends up working is what I go for. I don't really like how straight this edge is, so I might just try to angle it a bit. And I might like to put something underneath that that's a little bit larger. I don't know if gold is what I want to go for, but let's take a look. I also have this one, so we can maybe get an idea. I think that's probably too close to the colors that they both are. This one might be okay. Let's try kind of just ripping this at an angle. And there's no like rhyme or reason necessarily to how I choose to tear paper. Sometimes I like the way it tears, other times I don't. So I'll just kind of pick at it and see what happens. I like to sort of have variation in height. I may even turn one like that. And then maybe like that. I'm still feeling drawn towards this gold. So let's maybe try seeing if we can have just a little bit of this peeking out. What do you think? Do you like the gold? Maybe leave me a comment. Let me know if you like the gold behind it. I think I'm digging it. maybe even a little bit like this. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for that. So the next thing I'm going to do is use some Mod Podge to just paint this on. There are so many different ways that you can do this. You can use Elmer's glue. You can use any sort of adhesive that you want, but I have Mod Podge, which apparently doesn't want to open for me. So I might end up using Elmer's glue. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I'm going to just take a flat brush. This one's a little stained. And usually what I'll do is grab a piece of palette paper or tracing paper or just some sort of paper. You can see I have some palette paper here. And I'll open it like this. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. I flip it over and I just paint it all over the back really, really well. All right. And then I'm going to take this, and I think I had it something like this. I don't remember. That's okay. I'm not going to be super precious about it. And then I'm going to take these and press them down. There we go. All right. So I know I want this to be across like this. So I think I'll put this like this. I probably should have tilted that a little bit, but whatever. No big deal. All right, so let me get some more Mod Podge and paint the back of that other piece. Again, if you're just joining, I'm using some palette paper off to the side to paint the back of it. That way I can get the back nice and covered. I think this looks good. And then I'm just going to press down all the edges really well. Okay. And then the next one is going to be something like this. So I'm going to start with this one and paint the back of that with the Mod Podge. Okay. And we'll put this like this. Might just angle it up a little bit. That. Okay. And then, so we wanted just a little bit peeking out. So I think what we're going to do, maybe we do like almost a diamond shape there. Something like this. Probably more like this. So what I'm trying to avoid is that when I do this, I feel like these are so similar. They kind of blend in really easily. So I think what I want to do is actually turn it this way. So you at least see the ruffle of this paper here. And you can see that there's a difference in the colors. All right, so let me get this guy glued up. We'll put it here. I'm going to angle it just a little bit. All right. last one's going to be this one. Again, just going to Mod Podge the back of it. And I'm just doing that on some palette paper off to the side here. And then I'm going to immediately put that brush into some water until I can clean it. And then, let's see. Press down those edges really well. Okay. Awesome. All right. So I think this is looking really good so far. And usually from this point is where I'm going to start really adding some texture and making it very visually interesting. I feel like I use that term a lot, and I don't necessarily mean to, but I mean, let's face it, this is just some blobby watercolors with some ripped up paper glued on it for right now. But, you know, there's nothing to look at that makes it look like anything that is like art that you want to see on your wall. And that's what we want to turn it into. So the first thing I'm going to do from this point is grab my India ink in white. I'm just going to shake that up. And this is where I usually like to kind of just start adding some textures. So I might start by adding some random sort of collections of, they're not dots, but they're just marks. It's like mark making. And maybe some more starting right here. And I do love to overlap. I think that's part of what makes mixed media cohesive, is when you can join them all together by overlapping elements. Here we go. All right, so that's going to take a few minutes to dry. And while that's drying, what I'd like to do is go in with some watercolor to add some texture. And for that, I'm going to be using just kind of this liner brush. And I'm going to go in with the colors that we've already used. And it's going to be light and it's going to be subtle, but that's what we want. So I'm going to start with some of this. And I'll actually rotate my paper so I don't put my hand in the ink we just did. But let's just start by maybe adding some color with little circles here. And again, I don't necessarily have any rhyme or reason to where I'm putting the circles. I just kind of look, and when I feel like I'm ready to stop, I just do. I do think that this is a little bit dark here, so I'm just going to take my paper towel and lift there. I'm going to go back and grab some more of that and add to some of these areas that are a little too light. I think what I'm going to do is kind of just connect these two areas with these circles. And let's add just a few more. That one also is a little dark, but again, that's okay. We can lift some of that out. And what I might start to do as I go through this is change into some pink here. Just grab a little bit and change it over into the pink. And again, the goal is to add just some subtle interest, some subtle texture. It's not the focal point, but it is something that adds to the overall feeling of the mixed media art. Just lifting out some of that dark on that green. All right, so let's turn this back around and you can see how it's starting to look. Can I get some more of that pink and just continue this over here. Very, very lightly, as you can see. And I'll probably start to fade it out here. I don't really want it to look like a wall that stops there, so let's do this. And that's obviously too dark, so we're gonna lift out some of that color, lighten it up a bit. I think we are just about good with this part. Let me just add a little darker here. Okay. Here we go. All right. So another thing that I like to do to add some texture is to take a brush and lift out some of the color that we've already laid down. So to do that, I'm going to take just another brush. I'm going to wet it. And then I'm going to just start, let's try maybe like right here. Just start kind of lifting like this. And then you can take your thing and dab it. And do you see those little, let me bring it a little closer so you can see. Do you see those 3 spots we just made there? So we'll just continue doing that. All right. This is looking pretty good. Let's add some more maybe over here. This one's a bit more subtle because it is so light. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's all in this area here. And then maybe we'll just do a few here too. Start it up here. see that detail in there as well. Okay, so we've added some little visual details here and there. I think this is starting to look like it's coming together well. But the next thing that I usually do is start to add contrast. And that's usually going to be in the form of adding some sort of inky, dark, or paint sort of flower or botanical of some sort. And I usually like to do that loosely with some sort of India ink. My favorite India ink is actually sepia, and I believe I have a brand new one because I use that one quite a bit. Let me shake it up. And so this is what I use. It's the Bombay sepia India ink. And you can see it's a nice brown. Black is good too, but because this is more of a neutral toned body of work, I would rather keep it in those warmer tones. So we do still have some of the white India ink that's drying. So probably from here, what I would want to do is start by maybe making some sort of botanical. And I think for this one, what I want to do instead of just doing like one large botanical that maybe stretches across here, like I did in the one last night, I might prefer to maybe just trying to decide if I wanted to come up this way or this way. But I think come up this way with one and then come down this way with another. So let's give that a try. And usually I just draw with this. So I'm going to just start here and we'll just do like a little simple flower sort of ink. There we go. I'm going to add a little leaf. There we go. And you know what? I might add just a couple more little leafy figures here. Just because I feel like it's a little plain. Okay. There we go. Might even grow this out a little bit more. Okay. And let's see here. Might just kind of try to dot around this area a little bit. And then maybe put some dots around here. Okay. So I think that looks good for that side. And then up here is where I would probably put another one. But I really like the way that this kind of takes that focus and puts it here. And I don't really want to cover this now that I'm looking at it. So I may decide instead to maybe just put some dots here. And let me think. Sometimes it's not always an obvious choice what to do next. I think what I'll actually do is put this aside. Let me close my Mod Podge so it doesn't dry up. And I think I'm going to grab my pastels. And I think, let's see what those are. I know I just had them out the other day. Let's see. I think I'll grab my pastels and add maybe just some marks with them. This is them here. So I have these pastels here, and I want to keep them in line with what we have going on in this painting. But instead of being super matchy, I might come in with like a green. Let me see. So this was the initial swatch that we did at the beginning. And let's see, there's that we could do. Or, hi, Eleanor Long, thanks for joining. Or we could do, let's try this one. I think that one's good, but let me see about this one. I think that one's probably too bright. Yeah, I think we'll go with this one. It's got less yellow in it. All right, so let's take our pastel, maybe just make some marks. And we can even take our finger and smear it a little. And let's maybe make one over here. And then I might take this one here. Let me try this one too. Yeah, do this one. And maybe just kind of circle a few of these. Can't say I love it. I won't lie. I think I liked it better without the pastels, but it is what it is, and there's no going back now. So let's see, what can we do with this? Let's maybe, I wonder if we can go over it a little bit with some of this white and make it kind of more of a hint of these colors instead of being so vibrant. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. Because what I want is for the focal point to really be the collage papers and the India ink, the sepia India ink. So I think this really helps to blend it and tone it down a bit so it becomes more of a complementing part of it versus really just drawing your eye to it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we've got this. I still feel like it's missing something. And this could be any number of things. And this is kind of where I get to the point where I wonder, okay, am I going to be doing too much if I add something else to it? Or is it going to ruin it? Or is it going to, look good or whatever? So this is the point where I really start kind of trying to make decisions that are very intentional versus experimental. I love the reflective gold here and here, so I would like to leave that the way that it is. What I may like to do is bring in some of that gold. I don't know if I have that in here. Yeah, I think I do, this one. Just into some paint strokes on the paper. So let me bring this and open it, which is like glued shut. Of course, grab this so I can grip it better. Apparently it really just does not want to open. They don't make it easy with these. It hurts your fingers to try to get opened. Ugh, I can't get it. All right, well, let's pivot a bit. So this is what it looks like so far. What do you all think? Do you think that I should add maybe some more of the gold flecked paper throughout? Or do you think that it's good the way that it is? I could bring in some pen work, do some fine black tipped pen work. Another thing I could do is sometimes what I'll do is probably not for this sort of thing, but I like to use a cup to do just a messy paint and then kind of do a circle or some circles of some sort. But I don't know that this is a painting that I would want to do that with, which makes it difficult. I know I don't want to bring in the gold foil because it wouldn't match with this gold here. Let's see. I think we have the areas here that are focal. So whatever we do to the rest of these areas really needs to just be something that is complementary. So let's see. We could bring in some white paint, even in the form of something like a paint pen to maybe make some scribbles, even though we've already used the, you know what? Let's use this instead. We'll go back with the India ink and we can maybe make some almost like skeletons of botanicals. Apparently my dropper is not wanting to cooperate. Okay. Again, not the greatest, but I think it's looking better. And I think really this might be a good stopping point for it because I feel like if we go too much further, it's going to take away from the fact that this is the focal point, I would still really like to bring in some of this paint, but I can't manage to get the paint open. Let me try it one more time. Oh, it is really stuck on there. Let's see if I have in my X-Acto knife can help break up anything under here that could be problematic. Nope. All right, I've got one more thing I can try. Let me try pouring some isopropyl alcohol. See if that'll kind of loosen some things up. Get that going. Nope. Jeez Louise, this thing is like really, really stuck. All right. Maybe we can try some pliers. Oh, yeah, the pliers worked. Woohoo. Okay, we're in business. All right, thanks, pliers. So let's take this, and what I'm going to do is grab this fluffy brush and just kind of dab it a little bit so you can see it's got just a little bit on there. And let's start by just making some marks. Oops. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now let's take this brush and I've gone ahead and dipped it in the gold. And I'm just gonna put some of these circles in this gold acrylic. I might even like to bring in some gold on some of these. A lot of this is not dry just yet, though. Let's see. Okay. And then let's put some dots there. And maybe just a little bit of line work down there. The thing I also really like about this style of work is that it doesn't require precision. The looser you can be with it, the better. Okay. So this is looking good. Now, if I could get some of this white. There we go. So you can see how that really helps to pull things together. I'll even add some here. And then once this white is dry, I can go over those. Same with this to pull in some more gold throughout. Let's see. I might even like to just have some little gold dots. This is still wet right here, but I may try to just get this part painted that I can. That way you can start to see how it's going to come together. Because I know this live has been going on for quite some time. And you know what? Let's add a dot to the center of these that I've highlighted in gold. Okay. This is almost dry. All right. This one is really thick, so it's probably going to be a bit of a pain. But we're just going to hope that it's going to dry on top of the white. And let's add some little dots. Here we go. Okay. I think this actually looks really good. I'm happy with this. And I'm glad I was able to get the top off of this here. So I'm going to let this dry. I may go back and add some more gold to these areas that are still wet. But otherwise, this one is done. I want to say thank you so much. I'm going to move this so you can see the whole thing. I want to say thank you so much for joining and watching.